Greetings. Thank you guys for tuning in for another video. Trust that you're glad to see me, so I'm glad to see you. So, someone suggested to me quite a while ago that I should consider doing a book review on a book of the Bible. And I think it's somewhat odd to say that I'm reviewing a book of the Bible, so I'm not going to say that. Let's rather call this a commentary. Okay. So I wanted to discuss the book of Ecclesiastes. And before we even get into the discussion, I want to say I think most people will rightly acknowledge that the book of Ecclesiastes is perhaps one of the more unique books of the Bible, most especially because of its contents. It seems to contain some of the most unsubtle wisdom that you can imagine. Everything about it hits you with the force and weight of a wrecking ball, in my opinion. But there are many thoughts, many expressions and comments that I think are expressed, and rightfully so, that if we're being honest, every single one of us encounter at some point in life. And they're thoughts and ideas that we don't like to dwell on, because the idea is that to say some of these things is an expression of a nihilistic attitude, a despairing attitude. And right there is where I want to pump the brakes. If you don't remember anything else I say in this video, remember this. When it comes to literature, or really when it comes to anything, if you divorce something from its proper context, the potential to misunderstand it or mischaracterize it or misrepresent it becomes basically infinite. Okay? So my purpose in this video is not to offer some interpretation. It is really to convey in the realest sense possible what this book is saying, and I also want to relate it to what I think is one of the most pressing subjects or topics facing our culture and our society today. So, contained within this book are several thoughts, as I mentioned just a bit ago, which seem to express a nihilistic or despairing outlook on life. Things such as all is vanity and vexation of spirit, that all things pass away, that nothing we do will ever be remembered, that there's nothing new up under the sun, right? All these thoughts and these ideas, it seems to capture, I think, something very notable about the human condition. And when you consider the fact that the book is not all doom and gloom, so to speak, but that it actually contains some bright elements. For example, Ecclesiastes 5:18. It is good and comely for one to eat and to drink, and to enjoy the good of all his labor, that he taketh under the sun all the days of his life, which God giveth him, for it is his portion. Every man also to whom God hath given riches and wealth, and hath given him power to eat thereof, and to take his portion, and to rejoice in his labor, this is the gift of God. Right? There's also this idea that it isn't all just doom and gloom, that everything that we do doesn't just amount to nothing, but that also there is a God who has blessed us, who has given to us a certain portion, and that it is good for us to enjoy that portion which he has given us. What's really interesting to me is I was meditating on this book just today actually, and I happened upon a startling realization. Last year, I began to encounter several articles, headlines, YouTube videos, even interactions with people in my personal life, in which I learned of the fact that there is a crisis facing young men in this country. Apparently, there are a lot of young men who suffer from loneliness, depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, all these things, a lack of purpose, which is about to be a really big theme in this video, by the way, just a heads up. And a lot of this despairing attitude, I guess you could say, that's affecting so many young men today has prompted the question of what does it mean to be a man? And that's a question that I began to wrestle with actually sometime early last year. What does it mean to be a man? And I think that in answering this question, a lot of us commit a very common folly, which is to think of answering it not in the sense of, what is a man fundamentally, but what is a man in an ideal sense? And so what I'm saying is that we have this image in our heads of what the ideal man looks like. And in a sense, we idolize this image of the ideal man, right? And we all have these champions and heroes that we consider ideal men, and we aspire to be like them. And we think that a man, the measure of man, that what a man is merely the sum of his characteristics, his attributes, his possessions, tangible or intangible. And we're left looking at this very superficial summation of what a man is, and still feeling a bit lost and hopeless in light of the fact that we realize everything that we do is ultimately going to be forgotten and lost to history. So, within the context of Ecclesiastes, I realized something very important. There are generally two ways to approach this outlook, this attitude, this observation about life. The author of Ecclesiastes seems to rightly note that all is vanity and vexation of spirit, that all things are quickly forgotten, right? That all things fade out of existence, right? The human condition is this. We are allowed the opportunity to occupy a finite position in space and time. That's it. Dust to dust, ashes to ashes. Naked I came into this world, naked shall I depart from it. That is the summary of man in human existence. In light of this, it is very easy, if you don't believe in God, if you don't believe that there is someone who has blessed us with a certain portion, it is very easy to sort of just default to that despairing attitude and outlook of life. Here's the interesting thing. I realized just today that we've been asking the wrong question. Maybe not the wrong question, but that the question we've been asking, that is concerning manhood and what it means to be a man, is being improperly framed. And what I mean by that is this, is rather than ask what a man is, we can't divorce that from its proper context. Like I said earlier, if you want to understand what a man is, you must understand the context of man. And we've already established that the context of man includes this summary of the human condition, that is, that all is vanity and vexation of spirit, what is contained within the book of Ecclesiastes, and I think beautifully illustrated. But then there's something more to it. It is that a man is created in the image of God, and that purpose is not merely something that you can inject into your life, as many people would like to suggest, but that it should come from God, the person who created you, the person who has blessed and endowed you with certain attributes, characteristics, possessions, and that what really matters in the end, since all things are forgotten except by Him, is that you honor Him with those things, with your life and your very existence. And so essentially there are really two options here. Either we accept that God has created us and that purpose comes from Him, that is, He who created the universe and all things that are in it, or we are left convincing ourselves that we are merely to inject some purpose into our life. This is where a lot of people begin to say things like, just do what makes you happy, right? And I've always despised this adage, this quote, just do what makes you happy. Because really what people are saying is do what placates and consoles you, right? It's a very surface level way of responding to this existential problem. The problem is this, is that you and I have to face an abyss, a void, a chasm within. And that this is something that should rightfully terrify us. This is something that should stir within us intense passion and emotion. It is not an easy thing to do. But the necessary thing to recognize is that in the same way that we neither ask to be born and we neither ask to die, but that is our fate, we must recognize that there's simply things that we can't understand, and God is one of those. And although we don't have all the solutions, all the answers to any range of scientific or philosophical questions or religious questions, the idea that we're here now, that we can eat, drink, and be merry, which is also an idea that's contained within Ecclesiastes, and that this is good because it is from God ultimately, who has made all things which are good and given us a certain portion. That is, I think, the beauty of the book of Ecclesiastes. And I think that that is the proper way to understand it. If we divorce it from its context, we don't understand it. I'll conclude by actually reading directly from the last 2 verses of this book. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, comments, critiques, etc., please leave those down in the comment section below. If you liked the video, like it. If you disliked it, dislike it. And if you have any more suggestions or recommendations, please, always, I'm open to that. Until next time, bye-bye.